All right, everybody, I've got 7 o'clock on the dot, and so I will call the meeting to order. You have joined us for our annual organizational meeting, which our bylaws require that we have every January. My name is Matthew Hoagland. I'm the planning director for Alamance County, and I'd like to welcome everybody to the January 8th meeting. Our first item of business are oaths of office for new members. North Carolina General Statute 160D-309 requires that all planning board members qualify by taking an oath of office before entering their official duties. Tonight we have one new member beginning a new term, and that is Mr. Lee Kimry. Our Assistant County Attorney, Michelle Horn, is with us tonight and is qualified to administer oaths in her capacity as a notary public. So, Michelle, at this point, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. I'm going to administer your oath now. If you will just repeat after me.
From right here is okay?
Yes.
Okay, great.
And do we have where are you going to put the Bible? Sorry. I, please state your name,
Baker Lee Kimry,
do solemnly swear that I will support and maintain the Constitution. You just need to repeat after me. You can read.
do solemnly swear and confirm that I will support and maintain the Constitution and laws of the United States
And the Constitution and laws of North Carolina, not inconsistent therewith.
and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina, not inconsistent therewith,
And that I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office as a planning board member.
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office as a planning board member.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Bring this over to you.
Thank you, and congratulations. Welcome aboard. Next item on the agenda is the roll call, and we do have 8 of 9 board members present tonight, which is plenty to conduct business. Next item on the agenda are the election of officers. Our planning board bylaws require that at the January meeting, that will be your organizational meeting, as I mentioned earlier, in which you will elect a chair and vice chair for the calendar year. As planning director, I will oversee the election of chair, and then once a chair is elected, I will turn the rest of the meeting over to the chair for the election of vice chair and the remainder of the agenda. With that said, I will now entertain a motion for the nomination of planning board chair.
Make a motion, we accept Rodney Cheek as chairman, please.
Second. All right, I've got a nomination for Rodney Cheek as chairman by Henry Chandler. I think I heard you first.
Either one's fine.
Mr. Isley, second. Do we have any other nominations for chair of the planning board? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of Mr. Cheek as planning board chairman, say aye. Any opposed?
Well,
Congratulations.
Oh, y'all watered it.
That's right.
I tried. Well, okay, thank you. The floor is open for nomination for vice chair.
Nominate Lee Isley.
Second that.
Have a motion and a second for Lee Isley, vice chairman. Are there any other nominations? All in favor of Lee Isley, vice chairman, aye. Opposed?
Well,
Okay. So we got that. Has everybody had a chance to read through the minutes?
I have a couple points. Under the September 11, 2025 regular meeting, there's no motions passed for this. Unless my,
Yeah, we had a little issue with audio and video at the last meeting. I think technically the audio and video didn't sync up until about 45 or 50 seconds into the video. So I'm not sure that we actually got that 100% captured.
Should Matt Jordan be under the members absent portion there?
He should, yes.
Anybody got anything else?
Make a motion to accept the minutes.
Got a motion?
Second.
And a second for the minutes. All in favor, aye? Opposed? All right. Now, business time.
I'll make a motion, we amend the agenda for tonight and move number 8 to number 6. And then just move everything down one from there.
You want to move all the old business up?
We can do all of it or just part one. Doesn't matter.
Well, let's be real specific with what we're doing.
I would think move all the old business. If you not move part of it, you would move all of it.
Okay. So we've got a motion to move the old business up in front of the public comments. But I'm not hearing a second.
Fine.
Okay, all right. Well, then next, you got the public comment sheet.
I will grab it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Okay, so we're in compliance with that 3 minutes, that's 30 minutes. You wanna talk about time? I'm just waiting.
We'll give it 3 minutes.
Okay, so we're gonna have our public comments now, and we're gonna see if we can't hold to our 3 minutes, so we can move this along. So the first speaker is Deborah KHR.
Claire, K-L-A-R.
KLAR.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, 3 minutes. Tell us
Yep.
who you are and where you from.
My name is Deborah Clare. My husband Leslie Clare has spoken to this and the commissioners meeting in the past. We are at 4515 Regulator Drive, Burlington, North Carolina. We are vehemently opposed to any new LCID landfills operating in Alamance County. Rather than rage against this issue, which I know that you hear, we would like to offer the planning board and commissioners ideas and suggestions that they can seriously consider to make Alamance County a better community to live in. The commissioners can legally pass a moratorium on any new LCID permits and operations in Alamance County. A 3 to 6 month freeze while the planning committee and commissioners review this following data could happen immediately. To direct the Alamance Planning Board to solicit data from the existing LCIDs in Alamance County, some suggested directives to the planning board would be: 1, to find out what the current open capacity is and estimate in tons. Find out what the current fill rate, the estimate of tons per day for each LCID in Alamance County. The projected capping date, when will the current sites be full? And the available new sites, even at the existing locations, are there any new holes to be dug and or filled? Other oversights and directives, as the planning board and commissioners determine as needed, would be under consideration. With the above data, the planning board should recommend limits in the minimum and maximum capacity for Alamance County. This would give the commissioners sufficient reason to reject any new permit requests if the open capacity exceeds the minimum. This would include the expansion of the new LCID landfill that we are speaking about tonight, containing to the site to only the one parcel of land and not to the extent to the other acreage and the other parcels behind this address. In addition to the data study, the planning committee can recommend our commissioners passing a special zoning ordinance for LCIDs only. These entities are unique in the multiple risks involved with, but not limited to, water quality, air quality, land value, infrastructure requirements, aesthetics, compliance to the state requirements, and I don't need to go on. In regards to the revenue of this county, as part of the new zoning ordinance, required LCIDs in Alamance County do need to keep accurate origin logs. The truckers that deliver this inert debris must provide an origin certificate to the LCID at the time of dumping. The origin then determines the tax rate at which the county will collect for debris being deposited. This tax is a risk management tax in the event that the LCID is contaminated. What is needed even more are additional fees on inert debris that originates outside of Alamance County. Alamance County has been allowed to have much more LCID capacity than our neighboring counties. If they have a concern that Alamance County is profiting from their land development, let them know that they can issue LCID permits in their own county if they wish. My case in point, county residents desiring or needing to go to a landfill can only do so in the county that they are registered in. For example, Durham County goes to the Durham County dump. Guilford County residents have recycling centers and dumps that residents of that county are allowed to go to. Why then, I ask, do we not have the same requirements from the LCIDs? Which is where the origin logs and the fees come in. After all, the commissioners did state at the November meeting that businesses bring in revenue and residents cost the county money. Does it not seem logical suggestion also that there be some sort of limit over massive amount of dirt being removed from any one piece of land? This is not a situation of violating anybody's constitutional rights, rather common sense. Yes, remove dirt, but is there not some sort of limit or oversight and that we may not be aware of? I also end with this observation and comment. Last time that we were here to discuss this LCID, we were told that the permitted requirements were met. Yet the entrance of this LCID is now being altered, added to, widened, deepened, however you want to describe it. Questions of the residents in this area is, did this not meet regulations? And after we have voiced our concerns that there's now a change to the entrance? So did this not actually meet the requirements and the standards that it now does? And also added to that, every resident in this area knows that this LCID has been up and running for months prior to even the very first meeting last year. The state inspector, land waste management, and the air quality engineers state that it is not up and running because they, the Philippi landfill, do not have the authority to do so. This was the status the week before Christmas. I end with this. The residents in this area of Alamance County, Coble Township, are not ignorant to this situation. I know for myself and our household, this may not even change anything that I'm saying tonight, or any of us are being represented by. And we can be told that you don't have any control over this because all of the permitted requirements are being met. But you do have control and a voice to deal with future situations in our county. We need you to protect our way of well-being, our way of life, and our quality of life for us and our future generations. I do not believe that is too much to ask for. Thank you.
Okay, so that was 5 minutes and 12 seconds. Mr. Barrett's gonna be monitoring the clock, and we need to hold our comments to 3 minutes. Bob Hornick.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I'm Bob Fornick. I'm an attorney with the Broll Law Firm in Chapel Hill. I'm here representing the Kirkpatrick family, who owns property directly across the street up Clap Mill Road, and various other residents and owners of property in the Coleman Township. So I've got a few comments. You've all had a chance, I think, to review the email that I'd sent over yesterday with some of my thoughts and comments about issues with this application. First and foremost, to add on to what the previous speaker said, when I look at the existing conditions plat that was submitted with the plans, it illustrates that the property on which this LCID landfill is proposed is not located on a state-maintained road. It's set back about 600 feet from the state-maintained road on McClendon Trail. As of this afternoon, McClendon Trail is not a state-maintained road. Does not show up on any of the state's maps or lists. And why is that important? That's important because section 6.5.3F of the heavy industrial development ordinance says, and this is a quote, access to all regulated industries shall be directly from a state-maintained road. No access from a private road shall be allowed. There's no wishy-washy language about that. It's not should. There's no room for you guys to exercise discretion. Shall means shall. The rules of statutory construction and, interpretation, require you to give plain meaning to every word that's in, and you can't ignore any word that's in the ordinance. So I submit to you that if there's no other reason why this should be denied, it must be denied because it does not comply with the requirements of the UDO, because it is not located on a state-maintained road. Again, access to all regulated industries, this is a regulated industry, shall be directly from a state-maintained road, not 600 feet back from a state-maintained road. I've also looked at the plans, and one of the things I note is that on the existing elevations, the bottom of the pit is somewhere around 570 feet. The plans also show that when it's all said and done, the top of the mountain that's going to be built there is going to be at about a 700-foot elevation. Now, the people who live in Jacks Creek and the people who live across the street on Clap Mill Road, they're going to see this mountain growing out of the woods there. And that's completely different than what they've come to expect and what they deserve. Final point, and this the previous speaker also mentioned, we know that there's been an operation going on this site for at least the last year. There's been heavy equipment, trucks, dump trucks moving in and out of the site, bearing what looks like yard waste debris, trees, tree branches. They got a permit in 2024, I think it was, to incinerate those kinds of things on the site. And we understand that they've been doing that without the permit required by this ordinance for about the last year. And we pray that you don't reward someone who's been flaunting the county UDO to begin with by recommending approval of a land clearing and inert debris facility that does not meet the requirements of the UDO. So in the end, I ask you to recommend denial of the application. And I urge you that because of the way the plan has been presented, you must recommend denial because the plan doesn't comply. The facility does not directly access from a state-maintained highway. And if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer, or to try to answer anyway. I'll take that as a no, but I'll be here. So
now that's 3 minutes and 50 seconds, so we're getting closer. 3 minutes is the magic number. Betty Slade.
My name is Betty Slade. I live at 4572 Regulator Drive, Burlington. I oppose the landfill. And after all of that, I just want to say ditto because I have been living there for 48 years, my family. And it is a nightmare. Every day it starts before we even get up, the dump trucks. I live on the corner of Regulator Drive and Clap Mill Road. So they're turning off of Conville Road and going right by my house. And then when they're leaving, they're coming right by my house again. And they get to Regulator Drive and they gear down. So it's whoa, that's all you hear. And we cannot even sit outside. I can't even sit outside around my pool at the table and talk on the phone. It is horrible. We have dust. We have soot. I'm asthmatic. I can't even go out at night sometimes because of the burning. And this thing of getting a permit, they're working without a permit. It's been since last spring, I would say March, that all of this started. The parade of dump trucks. In the city of Burlington, we counted one day 5 trucks, one after the other. The city of Burlington, all of their debris and waste is coming out through there. And those dump trucks, most of them are not covered. And the stuff is scattered around. You just go by Conville Road. There's ruts in the road. and don't dare try to wash your car and go by either one of those landfills because it's awful. The quality of life has deteriorated in the past, well, when the first one on Conville Road, am I getting close? I called, they said that would be in operation 5 years. I think it's been in operation now 9 years and 7 months or something like that. I've called Raleigh, I've called Winston-Salem, I've called about the environmental issues. And everybody, they know before I start asking questions, they know because everybody else is calling too. So this is really a big concern. It affects our mental health and our physical health. And I feel so sorry for these new families that have built those beautiful homes at Jacks Creek. Their children can't even go outside and play late afternoon if they're burning. That's not fair. It's not fair at all. And I beg you to not approve this landfill. Thank you.
Thank you. Robin Hart. Not to be confused with Robin Hall.
Oh, the hall, that's right. My appeal, I'm also in opposition, very much in opposition to this landfill tonight, and I have a different kind of a appeal to you. I saw a Calvin and Hobbes cartoon the other morning that pretty much sums up what I'd like to say this evening, and I'm also speaking on behalf of my husband, Joe Snyder, who couldn't be here tonight. Calvin asks Hobbes, what do you think our morality is defined by, our action or what's in our hearts? Hobbes replies, I think our actions show what's in our hearts. Actions show what's in our hearts. So I'm asking you tonight to think about that, please. So tonight, I ask you this question. If you approve the permit for the Philippi landfill, are you able to assure us all here tonight that the landfill will not affect our water quality in the next flood, our air quality, it already has, our sound levels? I can't even begin to think of what it's like to live on these streets that these folks are talking about. Our quality of life seems to have gone by the wayside as well. Even though the landfill was already even though it already has drastically changed the quality of life for the people living closest to it. Are you willing to add the necessary restrictions to preserve the quality of life for hundreds, perhaps even thousands of Alamance residents down the line? So let us see your actions and as well as what's in your hearts tonight, please, by not voting for this landfill at this time to be permitted. Thank you so much. I appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just one thing. I think that mic is hot, but I
can't
I've heard everything that's been said. I've heard, but if somebody comes up there with a softer voice, I may not be able to pick it up. I just hope they move that mic over so that I can hear. Please.
This next one won't matter.
Okay. All right.
Henry Vine.
Oh, yeah, I can hear him.
And while you're on your way up, thank you for your service.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
How come fussing?
Yeah, my name's Henry Vines, and first of all, I just wanted to thank y'all for the opportunity to serve with you. I appreciate the nomination that you give me unanimously. Not sure why the commissioners chose not to do it other than it's political. I am running for county commissioner, so I do appreciate the time I spent with y'all, and I learned a lot from y'all. And
you're on 3 minutes too.
Yes, sir. I got you. I'll be done. But I appreciate everything that y'all are doing, and I just want to tell you that when I'm elected commissioner, you will have a voice on that board. And on this about the landfill, as brought out, if there's any part of this that is not met on the UDO, as he's mentioned, it doesn't meet the state road, then that's all you need to turn this down. I don't think that we really need another landfill in this county. It is my neighborhood, it is my backyard. But I do have concerns as to allowing all these landfills to come in place. Is all of them going to be able to stay in business? If we keep on getting so many, are they going to have enough people coming in to justify staying open? And who's going to be responsible for taking these landfills over when they just pick up and leave and it's turned back over to the county? So these concerns ought to be addressed and thought about before we approve all these landfills. And I've not heard anything about insurance or anything like that either. I don't know if that's down the road a little further. But I would just, as I did last time, I recommend you not approving this, and appreciate the time, and I'm out of here.
Thank you. Sherry Ford.
I think tonight, Sherry Ford, 3968 Highway 62, in the village of Alamance. I'm not near this site, but I am sorry for the people who are if it gets approved. And I don't see why it would be approved after I've heard what I have tonight. I mean, there are very specific reasons not to approve it, in addition to the concerns the neighbors had already voiced. I ditto and think that that was very knowledgeable, the information that was given tonight. And I'm very happy that it was given. My immediate concern is all of the traffic through the village of Alamance already. We have these dump trucks flying through, going to Collinsville Road already. I don't know why our county needs to take everybody's trash, basically. You know, I've heard that dump trucks are coming in that say they're from Sanford and all these other places. Why in the world would Alamance County be the spot to take everybody's junk? Whatever, yard waste, whatever. Alamance County needs to wake up and get some zoning. That is it. I mean, yeah.
I've been trying.
That's
for
what
5
you
years.
said
I've been on
last
this
time.
board. I come on this board working on zoning. I'm glad people starting to see it.
Well, they need to wake up because it's not helping their property values, and it's certainly not helping in this situation. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think this is Bob at 4672 West Millstone Drive.
Good afternoon. We're here just supporting our neighbors. We didn't really know what's going on, but we've learned a lot. That's all we have to say. It's somebody else that can have my other 2 minutes.
Tell us who you are.
I'm Bob Chatham,
Bob
4672. We live in Millstone.
Okay. All right.
We're down just below one and didn't even know about the other ones until someone told us.
Okay. Thank you. (4244) Jacks Creek.
Hi, my name is Calandra Salo,
That'll come
4244
down if you don't want to stand up. Okay.
Jacks Creek. I love politics. I'm probably one of the few people you're going to ever hear say that. And the reason why I love politics, because it requires you to really listen, and it requires you to have all the facts, and it requires there to be a level of fairness, right? And so I oppose it. But if for some reason you overlook the legalese part of it, there are things in there about, allowing in emergency situations. Well, your responsibility is to make sure if there's emergency situations that allow them to extend their office hours, what are they? Right? You can't leave it up to one person to decide and then having the other group to have to fight that. So part of, I think your responsibility is to minimize and look down the road and say, okay, we're going to say he's allowed to extend his hours for emergency situations. Well, what are those emergency situations? So I think part of your responsibility is to make sure that if there's any issues down the road, that you do your job now to mitigate those issues down the road. My husband just retired. We moved here from Massachusetts that has zoning laws. And silly us didn't think to check about the zoning laws in North Carolina. So this is our dream house. I blew my budget on lighting. I can't build another house and spend the same amount of money on lighting. So I just ask that in your position that you look ahead and look at what are the issues that could arise for the neighbors and what can you put in place to eliminate any possible issues going forward. And yeah, that's it. But I respect what you guys do, but I know there's no zoning laws, but you got to pick everything apart and leave nothing on the table when you decide to issue a permit. That you can't leave anything on the table, because it's not fair to us. And I know we may not bring in the same amount of revenues, but we may be bringing in children that can grow the school, that will grow places like Dollar General and help the hospitals, right? So we may not bring in the same revenue, but we bring so much more to the community. You have more people, you tend to have better hospitals, you tend to have better schools, right? So it's not always dollar for dollar. So, thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Larry. Say look.
Larry Salo, 4244 Jacks Creek, Part 2. I just wanted a possible solution, seeing the city of Burlington brings all their brush here, and I understand maybe a town or two others do. Why can't they provide a tract of land in the middle of nowhere, away from houses, that he could lease for $1 and operate his landfill? It eliminates the controversy. That's my suggestion. And number two, after hearing what I heard from the lawyer, if it is passed, this will open up the town to lawsuits. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but that possibility is there. And do you really want to go down that road? Thank you.
Thank you. So that concludes the public comments. So, okay. So now we're down to our, has anybody got anything you want to respond here to the public comments?
Chair, I do, if I may. Question for Matthew. Matthew, in regards to the private road requirement, do we know how many owners there are to that private road, or if there's a maintenance agreement for that road, and who's on that maintenance agreement?
So we know that there are 3 address points on that driveway or easement or however you want to categorize it. In our analysis, it is not a private road. If it were a private road, we would not allow this application to go before the board. This is a rather complex issue that we did a lot of research on in the initial review of the application, and then more recently after Mr. Hornick sent his email. What we came down to, especially after a conversation with our GIS staff, is if you look at their addressing ordinance, it specifically states, give me a moment, please, and I'll pull it up verbatim. in the Alamance County addressing ordinance section 2.2 for new street names says that private streets shall be required to be named and structures addressed off of when they meet the minimum standard of serving at least 3 households and having a length of 200 feet or greater. And so when we talked earlier today with GIS staff about why this may be addressed or cited on the GIS website as McClendon Trail, if you look at all the address points, you look at previous subdivision plats, you look at all of the deeds, all of that documentation says Clap Mill Road. Their response was this was probably addressed for E911 purposes.
Gotcha.
So that if there's an emergency, it can be identified by emergency service personnel as McClendon Trail. That does not put it in the category of how we would review it through the subdivision ordinance as an official public or private road, or even a non-conforming private road. We actually chased down the, when it comes to non-conforming private roads, the instructions that we have are in Article 6.9, Section E, subsection V in non-conforming private roads. In order to be considered a non-conforming private road, then the road must meet the following. A, be established prior to the original adoption of the Alamance County subdivision ordinance July 3rd, 1972. And be identified as an existing road on the 1974 aerial photography of Alamance County, or be identifiable on Alamance County tax maps as an existing road prior to 1974. When we looked at I don't know if you're able to bring that up. When we looked at the 1974 aerials, I know I've got it here somewhere. If you give me a moment, we might be able to bring it up on the screen. No, we looked, here it is. Pass that down if you don't mind. We looked at the 1974 aerials. You'll see a stem of a drive coming off of Clap Mill Road that is labeled 4115 Clap Mill Road all the way back to 1974.
Okay.
So we actually did chase down quite a bit of documentation on this to make sure that we had it right. And in our analysis, especially when you weigh it against the regulations that dictate what is and is not a public or a private road, or even a non-conforming private road, the evidence leads us to say this is simply a driveway coming off of Clap Mill Road. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you. Next question. I know there was some concern from the previous meeting in regards to traffic on the road.
Mm-hmm.
There was a traffic survey accomplished, submitted. What was the results of that?
Well, that is what I plan to get into in kind of my staff briefing.
Am I jumping? Should I just?
4 items. Yeah. If I went through it now, I'd just be repeating myself in a minute. So it's part of my staff report that's coming next on the agenda.
Okay. Thank you, man. Chair, I'm good.
We good with the responses here? Okay.
Yeah, he asked my question. I want to know what made that a private road.
Okay.
State maintained, but. Yeah, the private issue.
Clap Mill Road is a state maintained road.
State maintained road.
Right, and McClendon Trail.
He said that McClendon Trail was a private.
Right, but
They're saying it's not classified as
so
a
in terms of the connection, the ordinance says connect directly to a state maintained road. So when the applicants had to pursue an NCDOT driveway permit, it was for a connection to Clap Mill Road.
But also the site on which this facility is proposed does not have any frontage on Platte Mill Road. It's 600 feet back from Platte Mill Road. before you
Point of order,
site.
can we move to the next item of the agenda and get the information from the staff and then go into this after we hear the whole component so that
Certainly
we're,
fine with me.
okay?
We got a line on this agenda that says responses,
Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
just acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you're up.
New business, or I'm sorry, old business?
Old business.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Planning Board, during your November 13th meeting, you requested further information regarding 4 specific items which were found to be deficient in the initial intent to construct permit application for the proposed LCID landfill at 4115 Clap Mill Road. Those items were, number 1, an incomplete traffic impact analysis based on the requirement of the ordinance that places such a burden upon the industry being regulated and not NCDOT. Number 2, a plan to replant vegetation in the operation setback buffer once the temporary sediment basin is no longer in operation. Item 3, a determination of any wetlands or wooded swamps to be part of the operations area as defined by the Army Corps of Engineers. And then item 4, a ceasing of any construction activities until a decision is made on the intent to construct permit. In your motion, the board also asked that I transmit these items in writing to the applicant, which I did in a letter dated November 14th, 2025. And that letter is included in your agenda file. In order to satisfy these requests, the applicant submitted the following information, which is also included in your agenda. Item 1 is a trip generation estimate analysis. Item 2 is a revised site plan with an operational buffer restoration planting plan. And item 3 is a memorandum from Wetland Solutions LLC. In addition to that, the applicant also requested a site inspection to be conducted by planning staff to verify a ceasing of construction activities. And we conducted that site visit on December 16th, 2025. And I've included a memo summarizing that visit in your agenda packet as well. So this will probably be a little lengthy, but please allow me to briefly elaborate on each of those 4 items that were submitted to satisfy the planning board's request, beginning with item 1, the traffic analysis. And I want to note here at the outset, I plan to give you a somewhat detailed summary. And if you have more in-depth engineering specific questions or really technical questions I may not be able to answer, I understand that the engineers for the project are on hand to answer your questions. So to begin, section 6.5.3F of the Unified Development Ordinance requires that, quote, all industries regulated by this section shall be required to demonstrate if their heavy industrial use would create an amount of traffic in terms of vehicle trips per day that would push the road by which the industry is gaining access over its practical carrying capacity as defined by the North Carolina Department of Transportation. This same section goes on to require that the applicant use the Institute of Transportation Engineers Trip Generation Manual to determine if the average number of daily trips generated, by the proposed industry. Further, it requires that the, quote, regulated industry shall add these projected daily vehicle trips to the most recent traffic counts performed by NCDOT for the surrounding road network. My letter to the applicants asked that they conduct this analysis and determine if the proposed development would exceed the carrying capacity of the road, which accesses the property. In this case, that would be Clap Mill Road, State Road number 1129. In their response, Wilson Engineering Group stated that they consulted tables from the Institute of Transportation Engineers Trip Generation Manual, and that those tables included use types like institutional uses, retail services, and other service industries, but they did not, for example, include LCID landfills. This is important because in that manual, when a use type is not found, the Trip Generation Manual recommends that the developer find the closest similar use and use similar site-specific data to provide a trip rate estimate. Therefore, Wilson Engineering Group identified the LCID landfill at 4301 Kimesville Road in Burlington, located within half an aerial mile, as a similar use to conduct this analysis. They analyzed factors like the 7-acre operations area on that property and the average 400 cubic yards of debris delivered to that property each week. This analysis yielded an average estimate of 53.3 dump truck trips per week, or 9.7 average daily trips. Those same factors were then used to analyze the potential 55-acre area of operations for the proposed LCID landfill on Clap Mill Road. The resultant calculation here yielded an estimate of 76.2 truck trips per day, which is a factor increase of 7.86 times that of the Kimesville Road location. Wilson Engineering Group then used used NCDOT and Federal Highway Administration materials to estimate a current usage of 600 vehicle trips per day on Clap Mill Road. When adding the estimated 76.2 trucks per day, that estimated total of roughly 677 came out to roughly 677 vehicles per day. Meanwhile, level of service table D for roads of this type used in materials provided by the NCDOT indicates a carrying capacity of 14,300 vehicle trips per day for these types of rural highways. With a carrying capacity of 14,300 being over the anticipated 677 vehicle trips per day, the engineers state that in their professional opinion, the new LCID landfill will not push the road over its practical carrying capacity. Item 2 was the temporary sediment basin and replanting. The planning board noted that there are plans for a quote-unquote temporary sediment basin inside the boundary of the 150-foot area of operations buffer. Section 6.5.3E of that ordinance, of our ordinance, states that, quote, no area of operations or internal roadways may be located within the operation setback area. Vegetative screening and fencing are allowed by right. Other design elements may be located within the operation setback when they are required as a condition of other local, state, or federal permits or regulations. My letter to the applicants asked that they include a plan to replant a vegetative buffer in this area once the temporary sediment basin is no longer in use, or to verify that it is required by other local, state, or federal permits or regulations. In their response, Wilson Engineering submitted an amended site plan and a document entitled the Operational Buffer Restoration Planting Plan, dated December 17th, 2025, which was aimed at complying with section 6.5.3I of the UDO, and that should be in your agenda packet as well. For Class 1 uses like LCID landfills, that section requires a minimum screening width of 50 feet, 2 staggered rows of plantings, a spacing of 8 to 10 feet on center for these planted materials, plant sizes at 36 to 48 inches in height in 7-gallon containers at the time of planting, and it also encourages a mixed border for this planting. Their proposed planting plan, as depicted on page 4 and on the screen there, indicates that a planting will occur immediately following the removal and filling of the temporary sediment basin 1. This replanting will include 2 staggered rows planted on 10-foot centers of the following: loblolly pine 60 to 90 feet at mature height, American holly 40 to 60 feet at mature height, and sweet gum 60 to 75 feet at mature height. These plantings are to be at least 36 to 48 inches tall in 7-gallon containers, and rows shall be spaced 10 to 12 feet apart. The plan calls for 35 trees in each row, or 70 trees total. Item 3, wetlands and woody swamps in the operations area. In your review, the planning board noted that section 6.5.3G of the UDO does not allow for, quote, any area classified as wetlands or woody swamps by the U.S. Corps of Engineers to be part of the area of operations. You mentioned that nothing in the application packet previously made mention of whether or not there were any wetlands or woody swamps present on the property. My letter to the applicant asked if wetlands or woody swamps existed in the area of operations, then to please amend the existing site plan or to submit a new site plan to indicate the location. If there were no such wetlands or woody swamps, then to please certify that there are not in writing. In their response, Wilson Engineering included a memorandum from Adam Carter, Senior Environmental Scientist with Wetland Solutions LLC, and Mr. Carter's memo states the following, quote, a site investigation and wetland delineation based upon section 404-401 of the Clean Water Act has been conducted for the above referenced property located at 4115 Clap Mill Road, Burlington, Alamance County, North Carolina. The purpose of this investigation was to determine the existence and extent of areas that exhibit the characteristics of jurisdictional wetlands under section 404 of the Clean Water Act. All wetland investigations were completed in accordance with the 1987 U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Wetland Delineation Manual and the regional supplement to the Corps of Engineers Wetland Delineation Manual, Atlantic and Gulf Coast Coastal Plain Region. This report represents my professional opinion that there are no areas meeting the required criteria for jurisdictional wetlands observed within the proposed area of operations, Phase 1 and Phase 2, on the project site. While a jurisdictional stream is present on the southern perimeter of the property, neither the stream or the 100-foot stream buffer are located within any of the proposed operations areas. The criteria used to assess for jurisdictional wetlands includes hydraulic soils, hydrophytic vegetation, I apologize if I pronounced that incorrectly, and wetland hydrology. We have provided a map of the top of bank delineation for the jurisdictional streams within the project area. As shown on the map, the proposed disturbances are outside of the 100-foot stream buffer, and then they included a map with that memo on the next page. Excuse me for just a moment. And item number 4, ceasing of construction activities. Lastly, your request, you requested any further information regarding any, quote, ongoing construction activities in pursuit of the applicant's intent to construct permit. Section 6.5.4b of the UDO states, quote, an intent to construct industrial development permit shall be required before the owner or operator of a regulated industry commences any construction activities. Article 7 of our ordinance defines construction activities as follows, quote, any studies, investigations, improvements, or other activities undertaken at the site of a proposed regulated industry pertaining to the construction, placement, erection, or establishment of the same, including but not limited to surveys, soil and other environmental tests, clearing and grading, pouring footers or pads, placing building materials or equipment at the site, locating or constructing buildings, structures, or other improvements, or any other similar activities except those similar activities constituting operations as defined by this ordinance. The applicant requested that planning department staff conduct a site inspection on Tuesday, December the 16th, 2025, and that site inspection was conducted by myself and Planner 2, Jonathan Grace, at approximately 2:45 p.m. that day. Applicant Kenneth Philippi and engineer Caleb Hall from Wilson Engineering Group were also present on the site during our inspection. The result of our site inspection was that Alamance County Planning Department staff found no ongoing quote-unquote construction activities in pursuit of the intent to construct permit to be taking place on the property. So that concludes my somewhat detailed summary of the 4 items that you requested from the meeting. I'm happy to answer any questions that I can, but as I mentioned, as I understand it, the engineers are on hand to answer more detailed questions if you have those as well.
Before we get into this sort of question stuff, just as a reminder to me, basically would be good, because it's been a couple of months, what our role is in this particular process, and then also what happens from here, whether we approve or not approve this application. If you don't mind, just kind of give us that reminder.
I don't mind at all. Great question. Okay, so this comes from 6.5.4 B3 in the ordinance, approval of an intent to construct permit application. Completed application shall be presented to the planning board for a public hearing, which you held at the last meeting, and determination of compliance with the requirements of this ordinance. If the planning board determines that the application is compliant with the regulations of the ordinance, planning board shall forward its approval recommendation to the Board of Commissioners for final approval. If the planning board determines that the application is not compliant with the requirements of the ordinance, the planning board shall issue a written determination of its reasons and deny the application.
And in the event that when a vote takes place tonight, either for or against, what happens in those scenarios for that?
So if you vote to recommend approval, the next stop would be the county commissioners. We would prepare a presentation. I don't know that it would go immediately because we would probably need to take a little time to prepare a presentation and kind of compile all this together. If you deny, it has to be in writing. And I think we talked about that a little bit at the last meeting too. the ordinance doesn't really say anything about a reapplication process. So the applicant could amend and reapply, renotice, obviously comply with those parameters in the ordinance. I suppose that they could appeal. Maybe there's a third option that I'm not thinking of, but it's pretty open-ended if there's a denial.
So with the denial, it does not go to the county commissioners, it stops here then?
Correct.
Okay.
And as far as y'all can tell, they come to the county in good faith and went by our written rules as they are now. And they're in compliance.
So to me, especially with the 4 supplemental items that were requested and then provided after the last meeting, in my estimation, they have complied with all of those regulations. But it's a little bit out of my hands at this point. As staff, we have to make sure that it's completed and then before you. It's almost irrelevant kind of at this point what I think, because the decision is yours, whether or not you believe this is a completed intent to construct application.
Can you expand on a little bit, I think it's the attorney had mentioned about the McClendon Road or what drive or trail or whatever it is, and that's not, a registered, I guess, name, it's a private drive. But again, the landfill is off Platte Mill Road, whatever, 600 feet, whatever it is. Does that still meet the obligations of the ordinance? Or?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. So there's really nothing in the ordinance about the length of a graveled area that it takes to get to the area of operations.
So is there anything in the ordinance that defines specifically what a private road is?
Yes,
In the UDO?
yes.
Okay.
Well, it specifically talks about.
That took place, that it was in effect in 1962 when that was established.
I'm sorry, I don't understand that second.
So that trail was established in 1962, correct?
Our best records date it back to at least 1966, right?
So the easement was recorded in 1962. Has anybody pulled that easement to see what the wording was of the agreement? Was that a full agreement, or was it just an easement that it was attached to that property at that time, or?
Yeah, I think in the.
It's not accessible, I couldn't make it down the register of deeds today to look at it, so.
Yeah, in the deed documentation that we found, and Michelle, I think you looked into this a little bit more than I did. The earliest record of allowance for use of that easement dates back to 1966.
So there was a,
It's 62.
62? I'm sorry.
it's 62, it's 298, 349. Did you pull that by any chance, or?
That's what this is.
Okay. So how does that define it? Is there agreement between property owners that transfers from property to property?
So the wording in this, it's a deed of easement, dated February 21st of 1962. It's a 30-foot wide perpetual right and easement for ingress, egress, and egress over and through the property of the first part from the property of the parties of the second part to State Road number 1129, which said 30-foot wide easement shall be located along the crossing line of the said property of the parties.
So does it dictate anything about use of that easement and granting it to others and who controls or anything like that or maintains or yada, yada, yada?
That's all that it mentions is, it's the parties of the second part request a 30-foot wide easement over the top of the property, of the parties of the first part. And it's just for ingress, egress, and egress. So it's like an exclusive,
And I apologize for not being here in November, but did we hear from that property owner at that point in time, or? That owns that other piece of property, that has that easement, that has the right to that easement?
I believe Mr. Philippi owns all of those properties. I may be mistaken.
Not according to the GIS, but that may not be accurate, and.
Jesse was here on the.
Okay. Okay.
And I apologize, I wanted to go pull that today to see if there was anything in it that required mutual consent of use of that, whatever we call that driveway, road, whatever it is.
Right. So our review of this and understanding of it comes through the subdivision ordinance context, because when we see the term private road, we think about it in the context of the subdivision. Because there are quite a few private roads and smaller subdivisions all throughout the county. Typically what happens, class 1 private road can access no more than 4 lots, but they have to be applicable lots.
And let me, I don't want to, you're talking about what is occurring today and what is written today's rules.
Mhm.
And we're looking at something that was done in 1962, and for their active precedents, which one rules?
Well, but so over time, the regulations of the subdivision ordinance, especially when it comes to larger lots, like 10+ acre lots, probably haven't changed all that much. And I don't know when the state set out their definition of what is an official subdivision, but a parcel greater than 10 acres is exempt from subdivision regulations.
In the
And-
70s, it used to be 5 acres.
Okay.
Upped it to 10.
And since the initial adoption of the county subdivision ordinance, I believe in 1977, it's always exempted 10-acre lots from subdivision regulations. So if you create a 10-acre parcel, which in this area here, on quote unquote McClendon Trail,
Mhm.
Clap Mill Road Extension, whatever you want to call it, we've got 23 acres, 19 acres, and then 96 acres. So there was between what was created and today, we don't see how the rules would have ever forced them to kick it into the category of a private road based on subdivision regulations.
Here. So the general statute says that any subdivision that occurs after October 1st, 1975, in 2 or more lots requires a deed and a map recording any road that's included. Obviously, this is recorded before that.
Mhm.
So I don't know that that would necessarily have come into play at this point.
Yeah, but those have to be applicable lots. If it's greater than 10 acres, it's exempt from subdivision regulations. And in Alamance County, our road regulations are housed within our subdivision ordinance.
But even under the law existing at the time, I don't think that a designation as a private road would have been required.
And the only other way that we get a request for, if somebody comes in, if a private property owner comes in and says, I want to voluntarily upgrade my road to an official private road, we can walk them through that process, whether or not they're subdivided or engaged in any kind of development. The only other context by which something like that happens is a determination of a non-conforming private road, which is again when we look to the aerial maps dating back to 1974. But on those maps, we found it labeled as Clap Mill Road.
All right. We're gonna hear this, but we're not gonna open this up for a floor show.
I just
So,
have one
okay,
one
okay,
brief comment.
sure.
Just to make sure my argument is clear. The first paragraph in 6.5.3F, traffic impact analysis, says access to all regulated industries shall be directly from a state-maintained road. McClendon Trail provides access to this site, to this facility. McClendon Trail is not a state-maintained road. So all this discussion about access from a private road kind of doesn't make a difference, whether it's private or it's not a state-maintained road. And the site plan that the applicant presented shows you that the site that is proposed for this landfill starts 600 feet back from the state road, 1129 Clap Mill Road, on McClendon Trail. And so I want to, as clearly as I can, say the private road thing is a red herring. Doesn't make a difference. McClendon Trail is not a state-maintained road, and therefore the site can't be granted a permit. And that's, I want to belabor that any further.
Thank you. You want to respond to that?
I don't need to. I mean, the guidance in the ordinance, so that's its own little paragraph, right? Under subsection F, traffic impact analysis. All access to all regulated industries shall be directly from a state-maintained road. Next sentence, no access from a private road shall be allowed. So in our interpretation of that, we have to take that together. Is this a private road? If it's unclear in any way that there's direct access from a state-maintained road, it seems like the ordinance is pushing us in the direction of saying, is it by anything else a private road? So we went down the path of whether or not it's a private road, and we didn't conclude that it was a private road. We concluded that it was just a long driveway off of Clap Mill Road.
Okay.
So then why is the fencing not required to go to the end of the driveway, if that's a driveway?
Because the property doesn't go all the way out there.
It does, doesn't it? Just
You people may not care about this. We want to hear it.
I don't think it's clear on these site plans. I see deficiencies in these site plans and looking at them from a construction standpoint. It doesn't give you the end of the property that shows where it goes all the way to that road, does it? Did I miss that? Or there are a couple other things that I didn't see on here that I would like to see. It's on the very first page, the existing. And the road goes out there, there's an easement on the existing.
Right.
We beat the private road. We're good on that, or we?
I had a couple questions, just like Tom had a couple questions.
Okay, go ahead.
If the applicant owned the property that this drive is on, right now they own the adjacent property and that this entrance drive is on, if I remember correctly. I looked at it on GIS, and then this property they own is behind it. Would that change anything as far as the access to a state road, do you believe? So it's kind of hard to explain without seeing it.
Can you able to pull it up in GIS? You have the site plan on.
Okay.
That's what
So basically, I think.
So access.
My question is if you basically do away with that problem. We're gonna try to pull it up from the GIS. Okay. Do you want to ask your question again, Tom, with that on the board there?
So we've got the subject property.
We'll get up there, put your shirt.
Please.
Okay, so this is the subject property, right?
No, that's not, but just north of it is, the little stem that comes up. Parcel ID 105192.
Yeah, this.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So, whoop. So who owns this piece of property?
Same on.
So that's the question I'm asking. If the permit covered this and that, and the entrance is here, this is the property line, would that make a difference in the access to a state maintained road? It's just a question. That property is not under this permit.
Correct.
Does it require to have an easement? It goes out there in case that property is ever sold? Is that a requirement?
Well, I think that's the easement she was
That easement,
describing.
No, that easement was granted to the owners of the other property. It's not granted to, was it?
It runs with the land.
It runs with the
It
land.
runs with the land, so if it's sold, it goes.
You're talking about an easement to 4115 Unit C? It wouldn't need an easement, it's already, it fronts Clap Mill Road.
You don't understand what I'm saying. So if they currently are owned by the same people,
Correct.
which can change tomorrow, in theory, right?
I suppose hypothetically.
What mechanism do you have to make sure that access is maintained according to the ordinance?
We do after an operations permit is issued, we do 2 or 3 year annual renewals to make sure that the site is in operation substantially similar to how it was permitted.
Basically, since he owns the neighboring property, he's granting an easement unto himself.
Today, we have basically not much to prevent tomorrow.
Well,
Looking to
the
the
easement
future.
runs with the land, so tomorrow, if the parcel he's permitting now was to be sold, that
And
easement.
what I was looking up was from the standpoint of the parcel down below, and that they were citing that document that ran with that lot, not the other lot that's the unit. I can't see it well.
You mean the property in the middle?
Talking about the Nickerton property?
Yes, yes. What I was looking up was a Nicoda property that, and I'm sorry if I'm butchering that name, but I wasn't looking from the standpoint of the property on Clap Mill.
With respect to easements, if I may, when someone owns an easement and they also own the fee title to the property, the easement doesn't exist anymore. The easement disappears.
Right, so what I was looking up was from the standpoint of the property that is owned by the Nicotins.
Where is that property, Amy? I can't pick it
I
out.
think it's.
Right there, yes, sir. And
Right,
I was
right here.
doing
Okay.
an informal deed
Okay.
search from that property, and there was an easement granted to the owners of that property in 1962. And I thought that followed that property. And I am not an attorney or a real estate person, I'm just dangerous when I look at stuff like this, because I
The
don't
easement
know.
doesn't
But
exist on the grantor can't give himself an easement. Property owner can't give himself an easement.
So are they owned by the same individuals? It's not a corporation that's doing this?
Yeah.
It's an individual.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, just,
a quick
just to
question
kind of circle
for-
back
Her,
real quick, just to be sure I understand. When the
sorry.
technical review committee looked at this, and as you've done your research since then, the fact that this property is the 600 feet off of the state maintained road, that didn't throw up any red flags to you based on what how our ordinance currently reads.
No, the ordinance doesn't talk about the driveway length to the area of operations for an industrial property.
Okay.
It does, it says obviously it has to connect directly to the state maintained road and can't be a private road.
And the connection is through another parcel,
It doesn't really speak to that either.
and it doesn't speak to that. And we don't see the issue with that.
That's up for you guys to determine, right? If you think that's grounds to deny the permit. But like I said, in our analysis, I mean, we looked at a lot of different factors. The typical way in which a private road gets created, subdivision regulations, requests for a non-conforming private road, the addresses of the different properties, the input from GIS, their ordinance, the aerial images.
And the addresses were to Clap Mill Road.
All of the addresses are Clap Mill Road addresses.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
My question for Michelle, you had that historic easement, or I'm sorry, the historic deed. The language in that deed for the easement, it was more or less just a descriptive easement. It didn't have any meets or bounds assigned saying the easement needs to follow this alignment specifically. It was just saying an easement.
Correct. In the.
So its placement is vague, but the intent is clear.
If you're able to maintain, you talk to get to the member.
Yeah, and so that allows for it to, I guess, go or take whatever path it needs to, right? Okay.
How wide was the easement?
30 foot, I thought it wasn't it? Was it 30?
30 feet.
Chair, if I may. Yep. Getting back to the discussion on Platte Mill Road and the traffic capacity study that was done, the term in the development ordinance is whether any future development or the development being proposed pushes those limits, that word push. Can you comment on how much capacity would possibly be left after the impact of this project on Platte Mill Road?
So based on their analysis, from what I understand, and again, I'll be happy to allow the engineers to get into the details on this. They used a table provided by Chuck Edwards, the district engineer for our NCDOT district engineer for our district. The road type that was identified for Clap Mill Road is a 2-lane highway segment. And the level of service there is leads you to table D. And that's on page 5, current right there in the NCDOT document. The level of service D with a rolling terrain and a speed limit of 55 miles per hour. The table that NCDOT provided is a carrying capacity of 14,300 per day. They estimated when you factor in current traffic with proposed traffic, roughly 677. So the rough math on that would be 13,006. I was told there'd be no math. 633, something like that. So at least 13 or at least 12 to 13,000 vehicle trips per day could still be accommodated according to their analysis.
Right.
And again, if you have more detailed questions about their analysis, they're here.
Well, the point is, obviously that push, and what does that mean as far as how close that?
So I think what the ordinance would say is if they conducted their analysis and found that the new traffic capacity would be 14,301,
right,
then it's over. And then they would have to conduct an official traffic impact analysis.
But according to this, if I'm reading this correctly, even after the impact of this project, Platte Mill Road still has 3 times more capacity. According to is that pretty close or
that's the summary of their assessment.
so it's not
Yes, sir.
even close to what you would consider pushing those limits.
In their assessment, yes, sir. Yeah.
One other question, if I may. There's been a lot of concern, even tonight, it's been brought up again about activity on site. And I know there was a site visit requested and done. Can we just comment or actually talk about what it takes to put a site plan together of this magnitude?
Yeah, so
how many factors are involved in putting this site plan together and how that coincides with site visits and work done on site as far as clearing and surveying and the clear lines of sight and identifying.
So in terms of putting together all of the documentation, Article 6.5 of our ordinance is by far the hardest to comply with, and I think it's designed that way intentionally. With regards to the site visit and the current operations that are on the property, so we did conduct our site visit on December the 16th. We were there primarily to verify that there were no ongoing construction activities. While we were on site, we noticed the paved driveway entrance. There is a mailbox kiosk where trucks can deposit documentation, things of that nature. There's crushed concrete, and most importantly, there was an air curtain incinerator, which I don't understand all the specifics of it, but fires up and burns this material at an unbelievable temperature. And we said to Mr. Philippi and the engineer on that site visit, you have commercial activity currently taking place on the property. We don't know why, when they initially set up their operations, that previous staff did not require them to go through our TRC process. Typically, the staff review TRC process is for major subdivisions that create Class 2 private roads or commercial activity. We don't know why they were not required to go through the TRC review process when they first established. So we said, in order to try and remedy, we feel like there are valid concerns from citizens in the area and that spoke during the meeting. We now need you to go back through the TRC process to reconcile the current operations that are on site. In order to do that, they had to submit an application, they had to submit a site plan, they had to pay the fee by a certain deadline. They did all of those things. They went before our TRC review on December the 29th, which is immediately after Christmas, the Christmas holiday. They complied with all of our requests, and they submitted a copy of their NCDEQ air quality permit for the incinerator, and they submitted a copy of their NCDOT permitting from that state agency. So it's not perfect. I wasn't here when they established, but I felt like the best thing I could do to address valid citizen concerns and bring the property into compliance with the ordinance was to make them go through TRC after the fact.
So that they fully,
No, go ahead.
But they fully complied to what was requested from the county as far as going through that process.
Yeah, and a development like this is, so typically TRC is us, environmental health, building inspections, the fire marshals. There's no well and septic for the current operation, so environmental health really didn't have anything. They're not building any new structures, so the inspections didn't have anything. It was a brief TRC meeting with not a lot to it, but they did comply with what we asked.
What does TRC stand for?
Technical Review Committee.
And just one more quick follow up on it. Decommission plans where the actual landfills are with the state, other than vegetation and growth, is that true that we can require as far as decommissioning the site?
Yeah, this ordinance requires a decommissioning plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
So they already had a driveway permit and a erosion control land clearing permit from DEQ before all of this. Is that what I've heard?
From what I understand, and correct me,
From before you started here, there had already been
I believe, yes.
approved or, because DOT, before they'll issue a driveway permit,
Yeah.
the local government has to sign to authorize the driveway permit.
Yeah.
And so, okay.
Yeah.
Would that have been the case if they already had a driveway to the house? Would they have gotten a new driveway permit?
If it were a change of use,
They should have.
they should
Yeah.
have.
So typically, without zoning, without a lot of complex regulations, typically on the planning side of things, we just ask for copies of state permits. For buildings, we verify setbacks, if there's any other ordinance that applies. That's the meat of our TRC comments, but in this case, we ask for copies of NCDEQ and NCDOT permitting.
Can I make one suggestion or at one point? If there's a driveway permit for it, it's obviously not a road, it's a driveway. I mean, you can't have it.
I can tell you're not helping your point on that.
Exactly right.
You keep calling it a driveway and you
It's a
keep
driveway,
saying,
not a road.
so I'm just saying,
But
I'm done.
But it's not a private
So-
road, and it's not a
Well-
state maintained highway.
And I think you make a good point too. So the driveway entrance is not back closer to the area of operations. It's on Clap Mill Road, right? And the ordinance requires that it connect directly to a public road.
But the site, the facility does not connect directly to.
So is that where the fencing, the gate should be then?
Well, the fencing and the setbacks and all that stuff pertains to the specific area of operations. So if the area of, let's say it was 1,000 acres and the area of operations were just,
Yeah, I mean, it's not exceedingly clear
right.
in our documentation.
But as we've discussed, since,
I mean,
Just
what
after I
is a
started here.
self-locking gate, just for clear, that's another one,
Yeah.
that's required, but I don't think it's on the other landfill, is it? It didn't appear to me to be self-locking, it appeared to me to be a manual.
so the self-locking gate is something we would verify before issuing the operations permit on the site inspection.
I mean, I honestly have concerns if there's not a tenant booth and you have construction people that are trusted to be honest about what they're dumping. And oh, another question I saw from the minutes. I didn't see the lighting on the site plan. Did I miss that? Or
It is,
I don't see a site lighting plan dedicated on the pages.
Yeah, so if you look at the site plans on the property, the lighting runs right along the
So which page is it shown on? Is it
drive.
I mean, typically I would see a page number that's dedicated to lighting. And again, maybe I missed it.
but it was on the set from last month.
It was on the set. The set in your agenda packet this month is revised to specifically
Yeah, I'm not,
deal with the sediment basin.
yeah, I'm not seeing it. I also wonder, we're not, and I know it's on other property, but I don't know where the well and the septic system for this adjacent individual residential home is in relation to. Has environmental health looked at this? I'm assuming there's a septic system there. A well, and how many feet is it from that line?
So the ordinance requires the well study, which was part of the application packet from the last meeting.
Okay.
I apologize, I don't remember the details on that, but I want to say there was a 4 or 5 foot gap that would be left to the water table.
4 feet.
Do I have that 4 feet?
And we've verified there is no wildlife issues. I think that's noted in this, that needed to be verified?
You mean the woodland and wetlands and woody swamps?
No. I mean, the Wildlife Resources Commission is a habitat with the SGCN.
Yeah, they provided documentation in the November packet.
And I don't see this other easement. I would have liked to have seen the easements as noted on a site plan. There is a deep power easement on the land. Normally, we just see it delineated on the site plan that says, hey, this is here. And I didn't see anything written in that easement that would, I mean, from Deep Power standpoint, there it is.
If I may, I think that's a I think it's a power service serving the property and does not require an easement from Duke Power.
There is
because
the easement for Deep Power on the property. I would have liked to see it on the site plans.
There will be, if there is an easement, it will be shown on the site plan. But what I'm saying to you is these are the same as a service pole that might go to a residence. I mean, you're not gonna have an easement through a person's yard.
There's a document recorded in book 4547, page 468, that appeared to me to be an easement to Deep Power on the property. Maybe I read it wrong.
Well, our surveyor is not available, but if there's a power easement on the property, we can certainly.
I
show
think it follows that overhead line, and I'm sure it's a standard easement that Duke, I'm not sure. I would assume that's owned by Duke Power, and that's a standard service easement for that pole, but I typically see it on site plans.
Agreed.
So-
Unfortunately, this is a little bit different because the property is completely owned by the service that's being provided. So I'm not sure if there is a power easement there. I'll check with the surveyor and see, but in all likelihood, I would doubt it because it will just be a service line to what was going to be a residence. It is now dilapidated. But that's a simple correction. We can make that.
And just for clarification, he's the engineer.
Excuse me?
He's the engineer.
I figured that
So
out.
that's-
I'm sorry.
I just wanted to make it official. You got any questions down there?
Just a couple minor ones. Matt, will there be a requirement for the applicant and the engineer to submit an updated set of drawings?
So there's a required, what the ordinance calls an as-built survey. So the assumption is, the process and the assumption is, planning board review, recommendation, commissioners ultimately issue the permit. That's when they have the intent to construct permit in hand.
Mm-hmm.
Then they may commence construction activities within 1 year of that issuance. Then they have to put together an as-built site survey saying we're going to survey it and it was built as permitted. And then we have to conduct a site inspection to verify that as well.
Okay. Couple of follow-up questions to that. This plan shown on the screen, the inset there for the sediment basin and the planting plan, that language doesn't seem to match what's in the letter.
Yeah.
And I saw the date.
Yeah.
And that's why I asked, because it looks like the plans were from the.
Yeah.
And so will they update those drawings?
Yeah, and they already have. I actually called or emailed Caleb this morning because I've noticed that as well.
Okay.
So he sent over a revised site plan to correspond directly to the planting plan that I
In the agenda,
that I
just
had
didn't make them the
drawn.
drawings that we have.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had already
You've got-
put together the agenda packet.
Yeah.
By the time he got that to me, I'm happy to. And we may be able to bring that up. It might take a second to bring that up.
That's fine. If
On the
you
screen.
say you got it, that's fine. I just know that
Yeah.
contractors and landscapers, they don't get this, they get that, right, on a roll set
Sure.
plan. So I just want to make sure it got matched.
Yeah.
So with the as-built requirement that you mentioned, these sediment or these perimeter erosion control measures are required to stay in place for the life of the project, right, until the site is stabilized.
We were told last at the hearing that they were temporary, that they'd be coming out.
But as they come up in grade to achieve these ultimate elevations, that ground cover will be, I'm assuming, disturbed and unvegetated. Technically, yeah, go ahead.
We have two measures in place. One of the Division of Solid Waste Management requires that as you begin to bring dirt onto the site and we get above what would otherwise be level, and there are erosive possibilities where you can, transport erosion off the site, that they have to stabilize within 7 days of having disturbed. The other answer to that is to leave the sediment basin in place maintain it properly per the requirements of the NCDEQ permit.
Mhm.
Leave the temporary diversion ditches in place so that any runoff coming from any part of that landfill that is above grade
Make it to
will
the sediment.
make it.
Yeah.
And the owner is responsible to maintain the sediment basin so that we don't get off-site siltation into any nearby anything.
Okay.
And they impose fines for turbidity in streams to the tune of 15,000 per day. I can't tell you exactly what the Corps of Engineers imposed.
Right.
Division of Land and Mineral Resources imposes $10,000 a day fines. So the basin will be remaining in place and maintained, as will the diversion ditches that surround the site until the site is completely finished and stable with vegetation. And that's the plan.
Yeah.
That's to
Understood.
avoid the fines.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, you
The
know,
inspector will come out and
that's
check. Yeah. So
So while they're temporary, they're kind of in perpetuity until the
until you
site
achieve
is
ultimate
stable.
elevation,
Yeah.
right?
They're just referred to by DEQ as
Temporary measure.
temporary, but
Correct.
they are going to be maintained in perpetuity until the site is capped.
And until you achieve that ultimate elevation, right? For finished grade thereabouts.
You know, the elevations that are shown
Mm-hmm.
are what is potentially available,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, it's a 3-to-1 slope. And it's just simply to show what is possible in terms of achieving an elevation on a stabilized slope.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, those are more for, you know, what is the potential for this site to hold,
Yeah.
not necessarily what the actual plan would be. I don't know of any LCID landfills that are, you know, gonna be, you know, extending beyond, you know, it's just the potential for a 3-to-1 slope to continue in a pyramid shape until it reaches a height, and whatever that height may be.
Got it. And that's what you're showing. So the ability to maintain those measures, the sediment basin in the planting plan, are you able to replant the buffer and maintain the sediment basin at the same time?
You will not replant the buffer until the sediment basin is removed.
Okay, so for your as-built survey, is there a timeline for your as-built survey? So the timing of the buffer being in place could be quite a few years.
Yeah, no, I think that's an excellent observation. I was thinking about this earlier today in the lead up to the meeting. So if you read the operation setback requirements in the ordinance subsection E, and we went over this obviously in the earlier comments, all industries regulated by the section shall designate an operation setback, shall be measured from the edge of the property. No internal roadways may be located. Vegetative screening and fencing are allowed by right. Other design elements may be located within the operation setback when required as a condition of other local, state, or federal permits or regulations. So I suppose that one train of thought on this is if it's going to be an open-ended temporary sediment basin that lives for the life of the project, and maybe it's, gosh, I don't know, 10, 15, 20, whatever years, we could track it, and when it's done, impose vegetation based on what's presented now.
Mm-hmm.
Or, since the responsibility of determination is now on the planning board, you could say that there's a state requirement that it stays there based off the nature of the NCDEQ permitting requirements. I may be wrong on that, but I was thinking about this earlier today too. After thinking about the life of the sediment basin.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Kind of. I don't really have a good solution for it. I just wouldn't want the site to be seen as not in compliance.
Yeah.
By maintaining a state, erosion control feature.
Well, the ordinance says other design elements may be located within the operation setback when required as a condition of other local, state, or federal permits.
So maybe that covers it.
So if in our analysis we say this is a state permit requiring it to be there,
yeah,
as an environmental protection measure.
Okay. That sounds like that would cover that. It just wouldn't have that.
Also goes on to the event that the applicant is unable to plant required screening and or landscaping, they may post a bond or certified check in the amount of 1.5 times the engineer's estimate for the proposed plan. So it sounds to me like they this county could require a bond be put in place to guarantee that the plantings are
Yeah,
installed. at
because
the
if the operation went away, at least there's money there to put the plantings in place, yeah.
And that's fairly common when there's a situation where you're not gonna be able to provide that screening or right now,
Right,
you guarantee it
okay.
for a certain period of time.
So Matthew, I'm gonna ask a question. This is McLennan Trail.
Yes, sir.
Is considered in your interpretation, I don't know how Rick feels about it or what have you. It's considered a private drive.
No.
No, so McLennan Trail is an absolutely not a private drive. It is
In my estimation, it's a driveway.
Okay, that's what I'm gonna say. In your estimation, it is a driveway. I just question why it would be given a name.
Yes.
Yeah, so as I mentioned,
Is this something to do with you, Amy, as far as the 1966, 1962? Was it named McLennan Trail in 1966?
Again, I couldn't pull it up in the Register of Deeds, and I didn't have time to go to the actual Register of Deeds to look at it. I was just looking at the history of the property, and there was that easement that was given in 1962. I don't know if it was when it was subdivided, or I didn't go back and do deeds or. Right?
I didn't.
I just question why it was given a name.
Yeah.
yeah, so as I mentioned, in our conversation with the GIS staff about this, they think it was given a name separate from Clap Mill Road for emergency services, for E911 purposes.
But all
Because-
we're doing is guessing without a paper trail to it, right?
Yeah, well,
And it might be educated
know.
guesses, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know, do you know when it may have been requested to be named for E911? Or if that came from property owners, if that came from emergency service staff, I don't know.
So I know of a situation. I called this person much after I saw this. They had a driveway that they just simply named something without any documentation at all. It's now picked up on the GIS and the GPS as this name, but this person just bought a sign off Amazon and stuck it up there. And it was basically it was used for the emergency services. Basically, there was no registration.
And GIS is just for informational purposes.
Exactly.
So
Right.
yeah. But anyway, I think.
Yeah.
Could I speak a minute?
A minute.
It might run a minute more, but I have some very, I've been sitting back there. I didn't want to come in because I'm old and I have the need for food.
You know why it's called McLennan Trail, and you gonna tell us, ain't you?
I'm going to tell you that it was not called Trail. In 1966, it was a dirt road that was a house on it. And in April of this year, it was a dirt road with no name. And it was later widened. And then in the last week, it has been widened again. It has 2 houses on it. And it is not a private road. I mean, it is a dirt road. It is a private road. And they are using it for the entrance to the landfill. Okay? That's one concern. The other concern is this road, Clout Mill Road. It is less than, I don't know where the DOT came from and what what he said, but I think you all will agree with me on this.
Yes,
I don't think
That this road is maybe a mile long. It has so many curves in it. And I think I told this to the county commissioners last time. I was on the road. There's a curve that just about meets itself. And there's several curves, very curvy. And don't let me forget to tell you that the road has never been asphalt. It was dirt when I moved there in 1976. They put sand, rock, and whatever it is that they mix in with that.
Tar and gravel.
Thank you. Okay. And that is what it is now.
It's bituminous surface.
Okay, whatever.
Sir.
Anyway, it does not support dump trucks. I was on the road going through that curve.
I had to pull off because a dump truck could not make that curve without going on my side of the road. Now, this is dangerous stuff. It is not funny. We are in trouble. We're not in trouble with just that, but this road is a really serious thing. If I had a teenager who was going to be learning to drive, it would be very serious.
Wouldn't teach them on that road, would you?
No, but what if their entrance to their home was on that road and they had to come out of it? The road, and it cannot support, what did they say, 14,000? That is the most, it couldn't possibly. It cannot support 55 miles an hour either. I'm sorry, but like I said, I've been listening to it all back there, and it is a situation that is very serious, because I know he would like to have his business. But we moved, when I moved, there was not another house on that road hardly, a few. I'll take that back, a few. I had no neighbors though, and now I have all the circumference all the way around, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, except the housing development that's right next to this private road that they're using for the landfill. It wasn't there then, and there was just a little dirt road. It did not have a name. And so, with that in consideration, now those of us who moved to the country have to fight air pollution, have to fight. We have no peace anymore. We have noise, and we are now going to have lights to go along with it. It's really, and if the landfill is 600 feet away from a maintained road, that's enough right there, too.
Thank you.
So Matthew, are there two residents on this McLean Trail? Is there two residents or?
I believe there are 2 residents, but 3 address points. There's an address point for the dilapidated home that's on this property.
So the address point is McLean Trail?
No, the address is all Clock Mill Road.
Okay.
4115 A, C, and G, maybe, I believe.
So there is no address or a house on that road?
There's no McClendon Trail
address
okay, for any of those homes.
Good. I did have a couple of questions.
Okay, now's the time.
This will be another question for the engineer. I'm an engineer too, so
I get it. I know that already.
The wetland determination. I understand the yellow points outlining the top of 8, right, for the wetlands on the map. I see 4 yellow dots, 2 of which are in the sediment basin. What are those denoting? They say LOD stakes. Is that just a stake that he located in the field for limits of disturbance?
Yeah, probably, but I did not complete that map. That's done by the environmental scientist.
Okay.
What he states is there are no wetlands within the project area.
Correct.
And that was what was required of
That's right.
the board.
That's right. I was just asking out of curiosity.
But yeah, I think those are just limits of disturbance.
Okay.
He's out there with a probably maybe 3 meter accuracy with a
He'll type GPS.
yeah. So
10-4. All right.
Can I get a clarification on the hours of operation? The original application says the hours will be from 7 to 6 Monday through Friday, and then 7 to 12 on Saturday. But the trip generation document says it'll be 8 to 5 Monday through Friday, and 8 to 12 on Saturday.
It doesn't affect the calculations, but that's just a clerical, that's just an error. I did not realize the hours of operations were stated at 7. I thought it was 8.
Okay, so they are from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, and 8 to 12. Not the other way around.
I need to clarify.
It would make sense to me if he was receiving material from 8 to 5, that potentially somebody would be in there a little before starting time and a little after quitting time to push up, get ready, get all that kind of stuff. If the last truck dumps and you pull the gate up and lock it behind them and unlock it before number 1 on the next day, you're gonna have a mess. So there's gonna be some tidying up.
Some cleanup.
Yeah, that's right. Site prep, whatever you want to call
I
it.
haven't worked at LCID.
But you need to realize the vehicle trips per day are calculated on an average. They're not relative to 8 to 5. And so, and DOT's documentation is what we use for a 2-lane rural road in the Piedmont, which is considered rolly, curvy, whatever those things are. The other thing you can note about Clap Mill Road is there are no passing zones. So in our calculations, we had to use, in that variable, we had to use a 0 for percent availability to pass, which we did. So, you know, we did the best we could using the Institute of Transportation Engineers and the other documentation available from Federal Highway Administration to show the best. You know, one of the problems with the ordinance is, and it was stated by Chuck Edwards of DOT, is what is the peak capacity, and so we had to assume that was a level of service D. And based on their capacity analysis and their latest data, that's what we were able to access and use. It's the best information it's probably the best information any of us can get as far as those types of studies go. So, you know, average daily is, you know, vehicles per day, that's 24 hours.
There's some folks on this board that just love it when I start doing math. And I'm gonna give you another example of it. At 14,300 vehicle passes on that road in a 24-hour period of time, that's 1 additional vehicle every 6 seconds. And we ought to feel real good about the information we've been given, because if it ain't but one rolly, curvy, no passing zone road in this county, this is it. So at least we know what we're being told is true. I just share that with you for what it's worth.
Point of clarification, because I don't see the actual application in this month's packet.
This month's packet was just the materials requested after last.
So the
So if you got the
application
application,
was parcel 105-192?
I don't have that directly in front of me, but if that's what they listed on the application, then that's.
I don't have the application, so that's why I wouldn't ask you for that. Sorry. I could look back in my email and
In
find.
preparing for tonight's meeting, I just focused on 4 items that the board had requested clarification on.
And that's my fault for not being here in November.
Yes, parcel ID 105-192.
And it did not include 105-221.
It did not.
Okay.
Okay, any more questions?
I mean, I just have a comment based on that. Looking at the GIS and reading this, we've been doing a lot of discussion about private road and what is a road, what's driveway, or not. But the clarity of what is this defined sentence is access to all regulated industry shall be directly from a state maintained road. And this parcel doesn't touch a state maintained road, correct? So what is the definition of directly is the general question.
It's up for interpretation.
And we did not include the parcel that did.
Correct.
And we are being presented with plans tonight that don't include all of the things that are in our ordinance, the lighting, and some other things, the easements that should be on here.
The lighting was included on a previous site.
But if we're approving these plans and not shows lighting, then
The documents you have tonight are supplemental after the November meeting. And the revised site plan is specifically to address the temporary sediment basin.
The latest plans that we presented to the county include the lighting plan,
Okay,
as far as I know.
but they don't have the easements.
For Duke Power,
Whatever easement is on the property.
again, I need to clarify with the surveyor if there is a power easement through the property, but if it is, it's either shown or it will be. I believe it is actually, if there is one.
I just know that when we do stuff, it's based on the set of plans that were presented to the ordinance or to the body that is approving them, and that's what we have to do stuff.
We didn't intend to start over tonight.
Well, I understand,
Okay.
but if you're voting on me to approve this drawing right here, the vote would be no because it's not complete, first of all. If there were complete drawings that were submitted and I don't have in my package, that's fair, maybe.
When you take the materials together that were submitted to the board for the November meeting and tonight's meeting, you should have a completed application packet that addresses all the items. So,
And if I may, Matthew, this is a continuation, so the previous meeting is part of this package.
correct.
As far as total
Correct,
information,
That's
it's all
exactly right.
included in this vote.
In the
This is a continuation.
Yeah, in the deliberation from the November meeting, we went toward the end, we went item by item through the sections of the ordinance and found just the 4 deficiencies. Tom was kind of the driver of that conversation, found just the 4 deficiencies, and those 4 items were addressed in tonight's meeting. So you kind of have to take them together. I just didn't want to email and print an additional 50,
So what are
60,
they gonna build by?
whatever, 75.
What are they gonna construct by?
The totality of the plans submitted to us.
So you're gonna have 2 page 7s and 2 page 2s and
Well, there's a,
are you gonna update one drawing so that they're correct and complete and go to the field crew to build?
so we're going to look at the applicable site plan or regulation for that aspect of the development. If you look at the NCDOT permit, for example, it includes like a 7-page addendum
Right.
of the site plan, which is virtually a copy of.
I just see the opportunity for things to be, and I didn't have that on my page 6, and this page 6 was approved in December, but this one was approved,
Yeah.
I just see the opportunity for confusion. And it would be nice to be all together.
To have everything
Yes.
succinct and a little bit more organized. I
Yes.
agree.
Will we be allowed to ask any questions at any time?
I'm compelled to say no, because every time we start that, it goes in the wrong direction. But thanks for asking. I try to be,
I'll email you.
okay.
I have my,
I'm done.
And I'll make a statement.
Wave a flag.
Do what?
I'll make a statement, not a question.
I'm compelled to say no for this very reason. This, every time we start it, it turns into a floor show.
Planning board to think about.
So what's our next steps here?
Well, we either need to decide to do something or ask some more questions or not.
So are you saying you want a motion, or is that something?
Does anybody got any more questions?
How does that work? I don't.
Yeah, does anybody have any more questions?
The only question I'd have, Mr. Chairman, is if our attorneys would have anything to say about this, what the lawyer has to say in this not adjoining state maintained road. Does Rick Stevens have any comment that he's able to say to that particular point?
Yeah, so, if you're asking for an answer as to whether or not it does or doesn't, I'm not in a place to give you that.
Okay.
What I am in a place to give you is, clarity on the fact that I don't believe this is a private road for all the reasons that we talked about here so far, based on the fact that this was platted at a time where that was not anticipated to be required. So I don't think it's a private road. The question of whether or not it directly accesses a state maintained road is for this board to decide. I've heard different characterizations of the roadway surface. Having not seen it myself, I certainly can't give you an opinion of the worthiness of it for the traffic it's anticipated. But I think that's a question for this board to anticipate and to deliberate and decide. It's not what you wanted, but that's what I can do.
We don't work for DOT. If the DOT says it won't work, it won't work. DOT says it will work, it will work. The DOT said that road is capable of handling 14,300 vehicle passes at 55 miles an hour a day. Now, I don't think as a person living in this room, outside this room, in this country, outside this country, I just don't think it's possible for anybody to say that that's right. But that's what they said.
We're talking about 100 trips per day of dump trucks.
We're talking about 14,300 trips a day, period.
Seems
That road won't sustain that much bicycle traffic.
I agree.
But our job has got nothing to do with the road. Our job is to determine if this application is in compliance with the rule. The DOT speaks to the road. So, if there's no other questions about this application, then we need to do something.
Mr. Chair, there's one thing that Mr. Hornick brought up about the compliance with other county ordinances, and that the solid waste ordinance defines this as a sanitary landfill. I did not look at our solid waste management ordinance.
I'll speak to that. So the solid waste ordinance anticipates the operation of landfills, not necessarily the design of landfills. So I'm not sure there's necessarily any criteria that have to be considered tonight.
I mean, usually sanitary landfills and inert debris landfills are separated in other ordinances, so.
They are separated in ours
Okay,
as well.
so that just gets to, does this project comply with all other county, state, and federal regulations? How will anybody ever know that?
Well, that
There's
right
not
there is
some
about as
federal
good a question as how you gonna put 14,300 vehicles on Platte Mill Road in a 24-hour period of time. That's exactly right. With no passing zones. You do not haul hay on that road with a horse or a mule. Because if you do, when you get to the other end, they will have eaten all the hay in turn. Because they're that short. Okay, enough about that. Any more questions, comments?
It's 10 vehicles per minute.
Okay.
We have to do something with this, right? We either have to yay, nay, or kick it, right?
Send it on.
Those are, Matthew, those are our three options, right?
So the ordinance specifically defines two options, but similar to what the planning
I
board
mean,
did.
we can ask
in
for
November,
further
you can
information
ask
and
for
ask
additional
for another
information
revisit
and
with further.
bring it back again in
Do
February.
you wanna look at the whole site plan?
I'm telling you that I would not vote for this because it's not complete according to our ordinances right now. That's just my opinion. From looking at it, it doesn't appear to be a complete submittal with all of the information site plan. Matthew might have complete plans that weren't included in our package
This month.
today. Maybe they were submitted at a later date. I don't know.
All your boxes are not checked.
All of the things that are required under this ordinance to be answered or not answered, in my opinion, and that's my opinion.
Yeah, I think there is some merit to organizing the documents a little bit more so that maybe they directly correspond with the points.
I would like clarity of what direct access is to Clap Mill Road. I would like clarity on that. I don't know where we can get that from.
So I can provide you my interpretation, and I think I did that a couple times tonight.
Yeah, no.
At a certain point, though, because of the process, we do our review, we send it to you guys. The planning board has to make those types of determinations. So maybe it's entirely appropriate for the planning board to kind of set the precedent of what is direct access, right? Or make your determination there.
Well, I think by nature of the easement being described in the deed, it's called an access easement. An easement provides you direct access to the road
So
it connects to.
that easement doesn't follow this property, I don't think. Again, I didn't read
It
it.
goes with the property,
Doesn't
and that's
go-
why I asked her
It
if there
does
was any
not go with this
specific
property.
location.
I thought it was granted to the other parcel, which was parcel something, something, something that I just wrote down.
And really,
One oh
my
five,
opinion would be,
209.
my opinion would be to that end.
To 105, 192.
And that, as that may be, my opinion would be he owns both pieces of property.
He does today.
All it would take is just a redelineation of a property boundary to answer that.
There you go.
But
But that's not what I'm presented with. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, I mean, so you've got two sentences. Access to all regulated industries shall be directly from a state maintained. Where is the industry? And where is its access? It's access through parcel 105221. So it's not directly on the road. And you're correct, it's a illegal lease and a redrawing of map and a re-subdivision, whatever you call it. But that's not what's here.
I think so. So Matthew, procedural question, if it was a continuation, is it anything, any language that after two continuations, it automatically goes to, so we could continue with this?
I would assume so. You guys want to weigh in on that? I mean,
I'm researching that. Yeah, I anticipated that question.
okay. Okay. So we paid in the big.
So if we can clean up some of this information, maybe get more of a better understanding of some of these concerns?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Yeah, just so that we maybe, if that's a possibility, a continuation, that we might get a better.
Yeah, well, I think at a minimum, we can kind of compile everything together to maybe better organize it so that, excuse me, does more or less go point by point through the ordinance. I think there's some merit to that. And, you know, that's a little bit of a frustration on my end. We get documents and then a day or two before the meeting, we say, oh, by the way, can you send us this? We want to make sure that's in there. And then before you know it, you've got just a ton of documents.
So is there a deadline? Now, this is just a procedural question. Is there a deadline to prepare that package to come to us? If there's not, there should be.
Well, I mean, we've got to put together your agenda packets the Friday before, you know, materials. We handed out a material tonight to the planning board, so.
Yeah, but that material is not part of the package because it would have to be.
Yeah, I mean, there's parameters in there about public notification, about a pre-application meeting, about, there's different metrics for things of that nature. When it comes to constructing an agenda packet for you guys, those materials have to be in the Friday before your meeting.
Just so the public's made aware of what's right. Yep, absolutely.
So to answer the question that came earlier, we are in the absolute minority of the state, counties that don't have zoning. And so for that reason, the review process that we're undertaking falls outside the normal zoning regulations and the requirement to be dealt with within a certain number of days after referral. So for that reason, I'm not sure there's any time limit on the number of days that can be taken between submittal and action by this board based on the way this is presented. So I don't think there's a time limit. I think you can delay it again if you want to, without recourse.
And there's no trigger that this will automatically go to the commissioners without any recommendation.
Correct.
Okay.
And we will not have a Christmas party between now and the February meeting, so that's.
Well, how about that? Okay.
We keep talking about like, what if the property sold? Well, what if the owner changed the property to one parcel?
Here again,
You know, keep doing this because of what ifs or.
Right. Okay. Do you,
I mean, currently as presented to us, this parcel does not have direct access to Poplar Road, in my opinion.
It is a compelling argument.
Yeah, the parcel that's actually, the
Been
applicant
submitted.
parcel does not have access, so.
Can that be remedied and changed and resubmitted?
okay, so if you had a drawing in front of you, showed the lights and showed the access out there to the road, that works for you.
I would consider it, yes, but that's not what I have, so I think.
Okay,
And I'm not
so
voting
it just
on what
don't
we
take
might get one day.
14,300 years. Is there anything else that's a holdup for?
Am I the only person that had to hold up with this?
Well, no, but
To say it. Is
you,
that
no,
what it is?
you're the closest to me. What I want to do is, I want us to tell Matthew what we need so he can put it together. The rest of us have already seen the site plan.
Well, I mean, I looked at the site plan today quite a few times, and I was hunting for the lighting plan. I was looking for the register of deeds for parcels and trying to be informed before we make a decision. And I don't think in this
I'm not
package,
picking on you, don't.
and you know, given what I do for a living, I know the arguments that if I don't get a complete set of plans from somebody, then I can pick that apart. Man, that's like an open door, and I'm going. So yeah.
I mean, I'm going to agree with you on that. If you don't mind me asking, for clarity, also, are you saying that we need to re-subdivide so that both parcels are one in order to comply with direct access to the state road?
In my opinion, parcel 192 doesn't have direct access to the state maintained road, which is required by our ordinance.
Okay.
If there is an opportunity for you to correct that, there is an opportunity for you to correct that.
Is that, it's kind of important for you all to decide what we need to correct. And so I'm just, having driven from a ways away and a lot of information that we have to put back together again, I'm just trying to get some clarity on it. By the way, 14,300 vehicles a day is 10 vehicles per minute.
Right.
Yeah, one every.
That's what I said.
We agree with
One every 6 seconds.
One every 60 seconds. And keeping in mind, that's a level of service D, which is not happy. Okay, but we represent less than 5% of that.
Don't take that personal. That was a sarcastic
No, I don't.
slap
I get
to
it,
the
though.
state for offering up such a template to you.
Well, they're probably, you know, they have roads that are level of service D like that, but not to belabor that point. What we're trying to say is the 672 vehicles per day, based on Institute of Transportation Engineering, Federal Highway, that represents less than 5% of what the level of service D is on that road.
Right.
Which was kind of the point that we were forced to make, even after DOT said, no, you don't need to have a traffic impact analysis. You're not even going to smell making this road worse as far as traffic.
Right.
So now dump truck traffic, you know.
Yeah.
So that's all, you know, we're working with the data we're given. And, you know, my engineering pal over here understands that's what we got. You know, we either got statistical data or we got, you know, whatever empirical data we can grab, and that's the best we can do. We're not trying to hurt anybody's feelings. We're just we're doing our job.
Yeah.
And I happen to agree that you need a complete set of plans. That's on us. If we don't have a complete set of plans before you, then whatever you approve that is not complete, the contractor is not going to build it in accordance with what was approved. Totally agree.
Mm-hmm.
My only ask is, can we do this one more time?
Yeah.
That's
You need to know,
I was
put in a
going.
complete set of plans.
Yeah, can we just not have to go, okay, there's more, you know, if we're gonna get denied, fine, but you know, it's just this iterative process of what else is there. So I would just ask that consideration of you all.
On behalf of my clients, I ask to deny it. You've got an application, it doesn't comply, deny it.
Very valid point there. But we comply with everything known.
I'm not going to respond to that.
You don't have any motion. Nobody's. Yeah.
So Matthew, real quick, just a real quick question.
Yes, sir.
So to this discrepancy or this concern that's been brought up, a recombination or an additional parcel put on the application, would that void the original application?
That's a really good question. I was thinking about how it might alter the application. I don't know that it would fundamentally alter most of what they've applied for. So, for example, I don't imagine that the area of operations would change, right? The area of operations is that smaller 55 or more or less acres. kind of central. Would it throw off their calculations for maybe like NCDEQ disturbance versus net land area? I'm not sure. So I don't know if they would have to redo any.
No.
Okay.
You have to
It's just
resubmit
based
it.
on limits of disturbance.
Yes, I was just kind of thinking about what may be there.
If you're redrawing the property guideline, the boundaries, you'd have to go back to DEQ, right? You'd have to go back to environmental. If
No,
you're,
we wouldn't
if
have to
you're
go back, we would
altering
have to
the
submit a
parcel
revision.
size.
Okay.
If you're altering the parcel size, wouldn't you have to go back to the state environmental people?
No, because we're not altering the limits of disturbance that we've agreed to maintain. So we might go through just as a point of diligence for a revision, but it wouldn't affect the fact that we have the permit.
So yeah, to answer your question, I don't think that a revision could add on that additional 20 acres or so would. It's not going to alter the operations area. It's not going to alter any land spacing. It's not going to alter the existing traffic impact estimates that they did. So I think it would be safe.
Does the Nickerson property hit that McLennan Trail?
It
Does the
borders.
Nickerson
It's
property
not
hit that
clear
trail?
from the site plan, and the plats that were drawn for this property are not recorded. So they're private surveys.
So we don't really know.
So the
we don't-
GIS.
They're surveying, so they're not going to re-record something if they're not changing the boundary. It's just an updated survey,
I'm
but
saying
you don't
when
have
the
to.
subdivision was done and there were surveys made for the subdivision to meet out that piece of property. There was a survey noted in the deed, but it was not a recorded survey that gave the plat book page and,
It's a survey
The book
conducted
page.
by so and so on this date.
you know
Which
what I'm
makes it
saying?
impossible.
It's a reference survey.
They referenced to a survey that wasn't recorded.
Hmm.
So it was
Oh,
privately done.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I've never understood why you go to the trouble to do a survey and then not record it, but that's just. Those are helpful things to have, down the road, 70 years.
Well, their existing plan does show the Nickerson property line as it relates to the.
But if you go back and trace that deed back, it points to a survey, but it's not a recorded survey that I could find. Because I was looking from the standpoint of where the, whatever is. I mean, because you're not required to record those, right? On a residential property.
You're not required to record them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's wise practice to do so. But sure, certainly don't think you were required in the 1960s.
I mean, and I understand what, if it's not clear,
Yeah.
but the best information we have is a drawing provided by a licensed North Carolina surveyor. So he's done some sort of research to show this line work on this
And
drawing.
again, I was looking from the standpoint of trying to establish whether that was a driveway or a road. I'm not calling into question their work at all.
Oh, okay.
I was saying when I was going back looking from the historical standpoint of what is this?
Where the easement is or what?
Is it an easement? Is it a trail? Is it a driveway? What is it? I thought it might be helpful information to have the historical perspective.
Well, it appears to be an easement to keep that property from being landlocked, obviously,
That's
so
right.
otherwise.
Yeah, and there
you
is an
have no
easement
right to
recorded,
tax it.
and that easement points to a survey that was compiled by William, somebody. But it doesn't give us a plat book and page number, so I'm assuming it wasn't.
Or a deed book. Most properties back then were not platted unless they
Yeah.
were subdivided.
So,
I'm sure the property boundary is drawn by deed references only. There's not typically plats for even, we see large tracts that are referencing a stone in somebody's field.
one of the fun ones are when it's like the oak tree,
Right.
20 degrees, and it's like, okay, in
So,
1500 there was an oak tree there.
What's available data? That's what we got.
Or we need to get some more information.
Does the parcel for the landfill, does it have a
You make it
platinum address?
Do you want me to make a motion?
I was just asking if you.
I hadn't gotten a motion yet.
The parcel for the landfill has a Clap Mill address.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
It is.
It's 4115 Clap Mill Road, is that right?
Correct.
That's correct.
I'm just wondering if that's not considered direct access to Clap Mill Road via easement by whatever means necessary. I'm not saying that it is or it is not, but isn't that the question we have before us right now?
One I'm hearing.
Okay.
Well, in answer to that, we have an easement off of Regulator Drive called Tryon Drive, and then it starts our driveway, and we don't have access to Regulator Drive, but that's our address. For an example.
I don't think the addresses of the property have anything to do with the question that's presented in the board questions for us.
I think you have to have, in the beginning, you have to have a way to that road to get the address before they would give you an address. I can't just say I want my address at 62 and I live over here off of Clapton Road. It has to be a direct access to put a mailbox at for that address.
Big thing is, if you dial 911, where do they go?
They're going to the address, Clapton Road, which gives them 911 direct access to the property.
When you used to pick the phone up, that was right. With these cell phones, that's check. It's a more information. I do not want you to vote for or against something based on misinformation. Okay. Well,
we need to say that.
we charge this together. We're gonna say we need 2 weeks, so we can look it up at the next meeting. It'll be 2 by 4.
I'm gonna make a motion based on the information we have in front of us, which is what we have to work with tonight. I make a motion that we deny this application. Based on the information I have in hand.
Okay, got a motion, no second. Motion failed. All right. So,
Chair, you entertain another motion?
Yes.
Maybe. What is it?
I make a motion that we offer the applicant the chance for some clarification on the parcel that is actually in the application and whether that fronts Clap Mill Road. Maybe give them the opportunity to clear that up. So I make a motion that we table this until more information is gathered and we get everything that from the previous meeting, which was official, but still collectively all put together so that we can get a better picture for everyone to be satisfied with.
Okay, so before anybody seconds that, now hold up. We don't have an official motion on the floor other than that. So we got to have something official to table. So let me repackage what you just said.
Sure.
How about you and the engineer get together the complete site plan, the lighting, access to the road, the stuff that's deficient. Let's see if we can get that turned around in 2 weeks so that this board can have it and have 2 weeks to dig over it before the next meeting. Does that do what you're?
That satisfies my original motion. It does.
Are y'all good with that? You are?
So also part of what you're asking also, Lee, was some clarity on the access as well, is that?
I think the access is part of the bigger question as what, whether we have access to the main road without going through an additional parcel. And the question of whether this is a driveway that is going across an additional parcel, even if that parcel is owned by the same owner. Some clarification, I think there's been something mentioned about a recombination or the additional parcel be listed in the application.
Does that
We're gonna
work?
need clarity on
It-
that.
On this part of it?
It's close. See, Mr. Chairman, according to everything I've heard, Amy, you helped us a lot on this, but in addition to that, I would, me personally, I would have to have somebody to tell me what absolute matter of fact that the statements that I did not see the lawyer's email till just I got here tonight. But I would have to have somebody tell me that the statement he made in bold print here, he's absolutely wrong. That's what I'm looking for. That the man's wrong. He has a compelling argument. In with this 2-week trial, somebody has to say that. That's just my input, sir.
Okay.
That's all it is.
Well, I'm just asking, Tom, your name. Are you,
Comments?
do what now?
For any comments or anything, I'm sorry.
Are you all right with us getting this, see if we can't look at this whole package in 2 weeks?
Sure.
Okay.
If that'll make
Does 2
everybody
weeks
comfortable.
Does 2 weeks provide time to address the access portion of it if the applicant needs to do something else, potentially?
So you're asking us to present the easement along McClendon Trail as part of?
I'm not.
Well, no, I'm just,
Yeah, the easement, I'm not sure
Just
that.
trying to get clarity on what you're asking us to present in 2 weeks so we can either yay or nay that.
The problem that I have with it is I have an easement to my home. But that doesn't grant me, and my address is a certain road, but that I don't own half of my driveway. So I don't have direct access to a road. Even though I have an easement and it's recorded, I don't have that. I need somebody to tell me, this is just me. This is not the board, this is me. That the argument that the lawyer's making in this letter, somebody with the authority or another lawyer, whatever the case may be, tell me this man's wrong. And I haven't heard that tonight. I haven't heard it from anybody.
Well, the definition
On what
of correct.
specific question, on what specific point are you?
The point is that it's unequivocal that the access to the site shall be directly a state maintained road. And I haven't heard any argument that that the lawyer's compelling argument is absolutely, positively incorrect. I think you used the word interpretation. My interpretation, I have to agree with the man. My interpretation. I'm not a lawyer. Although I've argued with Rick before, I'm not a lawyer. But that's the point. That's the only thing I'm saying. It's just me. Just one vote. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and I use the word interpretation because as planning official, that's what you do in the lack of clarity, right? That's what we
Yeah.
have to do, whether it's this ordinance or things we deal with on a day-to-day basis that never come before the planning board.
It just happens.
There's
to be-
interpretation that's involved. So,
My
but as I mentioned
interpretation is-
earlier, so I think that the board has to come to a point where maybe they say to them, you say to yourselves, we have to decide. Staff can interpret it one way, but if the intent to construct permit or denial is before you now, then maybe the planning board has to decide and make your determination.
I'm sorry, I said that again, man.
Interpretation.
I'm sorry. I didn't follow you.
So the process lays out that this is now before the planning board to make that type of determination.
Mhm.
Maybe part of that is the determination of whether or not it's direct access, right?
I mean, it doesn't appear to be direct access.
Mr. Chair, if I might, I think it's probably best for you to ask for a motion strictly to approve, deny, or to table, but not to condition that motion on receipt of any certain information to satisfy members of the board. You can certainly give those comments, and I would expect that people will receive the comments and act accordingly, but I don't think you should condition it based on that. The vote should be simply to approve, deny, or table, and then leave the rest of it away from that motion.
Because all of our concerns are recorded. They're all here for evidence of those concerns.
So we just gonna table the discussion part? Cause right now we don't.
They can
have a motion.
request that if it's tabled and brought back at the February meeting, the application packet is a little bit more organized, maybe in line with the ordinance, right? That's something you would like to see? And I think that was part of your comments as well.
Right. And that's totally fine. I'm just suggesting that rather than try to repackage what he had said as part of the motion to be considered, that the item to be considered is
Okay.
whether we're gonna table this item or not.
Okay. Where I was going with it was a consensus as opposed to a motion. Restate your motion.
To table, simply.
Okay. All right. Well, next month, we got a motion
Second.
and a second. Does everybody understand what we're doing? We're gonna talk about this some more next month. All in favor, aye? Opposed? Okay. So we got a 5-2 vote here. You done heard all you want to hear.
I am.
Okay.
I got one comment, just short, brief. Last time we left here, we was required to bring 4 things to the table tonight. Those 4 things was brought to the table. Is the next meeting gonna be 4 more things, or are we gonna do this every time? I mean, we keep giving you what you want every time. This costs a lot of money. This guy engineer sitting here is not cheap.
Not at 925.
So, you know, are we gonna keep continuing this list every meeting?
Is this open for?
Okay.
Are we gonna?
This is what happens.
Are we gonna continue with the agenda?
We are. Do y'all want to do some more? Or you want to just
We're gonna give 3 or 5 minutes.
can?
Just allow people to, if people plan to leave.
Okay. If anybody needs to go to,
Take a bathroom break?
that's right. Yeah, we'll take 5 minutes.
5-minute recess.
You ready?
I think I'm ready. You gonna call the meeting back to order?
Not really. I want to get a motion to adjourn and go home, but we'll
Hit me.
call it back in order. Bathroom break's over.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to make a recommendation in the sake of time that we table these other articles until we have a more appropriate time to address these articles. 6.12, 6.13, 6.14, and these other items on the agenda, it's almost 10 o'clock.
I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No.
You're saying we can't, or you're vetoing?
I can't veto it. I'm just joking.
Really wanted about 3 minutes.
Okay. Well, if that be the case, then
Keep saying it's time to go?
I heard. You want to talk about your announcements? And
I do, yes.
Well, I had a question real quick.
Okay.
Understanding we're gonna table the rest of the agenda for the next meeting, which is fine, or to whenever. Do we not wanna create a succinct list of bullet points for what the applicant needs to provide? Because understanding their position, I know how it is to revise plans or application. Some of these things can kind of be open-ended. Matt, do we need to establish those specific points
Well,
here, or is that something for you to take back based on what we've discussed tonight to do?
so the last time you met in November, you gave me a specific directive to transmit information to the applicant in writing. That was not part of tonight's motion. But what I understood from the conversation, the discussion as part of the motion, was that in the next meeting, you would like to see a more organized arrangement of the materials to make up the comprehensive.
And that was kind of based on his
So that's my
recommendation.
plan. That's what I plan to do. That's probably going to involve conversations with the engineers.
Okay.
Put together the packet. That's my plan. I don't know about the technical appropriateness of another motion at this point. That's why you guys are here.
You could certainly put it in the form of a motion. I would just ask the board to remember that there's no requirement for unanimity in terms of agreement or understanding about the item presented. What's required at some point is a vote up or down and an understanding by this board that this is not going to die here unless it continues to linger.
Right.
I think that's really what seems to be most frustrating for the applicant. I can understand the frustration. I would suggest that it might be appropriate for you to ask the planning staff to put together a list of requested items based on the recording of tonight's meeting and to send those and ask for clarification on your behalf in advance of the next meeting in sufficient time for you to review those items before the next meeting starts.
And that effort also need to be done, in my opinion, to still allow the applicant the full 2 weeks for them to get that information and revise and resubmit.
Well, that 2-week requirement would no longer be because we simply table. Is that correct?
That is correct, and that 2-week number, now that was just a number that Rodney pulled out thinking that if you had it, we got it, we could pour over it if anything screamed out.
That's right.
We had a little window of time to cycle it back around and hopefully come in here one more time and our part be done.
Yeah, no more tabling, but have an opportunity to come
Yeah.
over it.
Well, I'm gonna say, is that 2 weeks sufficient for an engineer?
But they're gonna get a surveyor out there to officially recombine that property, which I assume they have that option at their disposal. That's probably gonna take longer than 2 weeks.
I mean, the things that I was bringing up, you say are things that they already had, and it's a layer they can turn back on to their drawings and complete. I would like to see where the well or septic field is on I'd like to see the easements, I'd like to see the lighting and the components that are in our requirements on the same document. I think that's reasonable, they probably could do that in 2 weeks. That driveway access, whatever. Yeah.
But
Don't you have a complete site plan with all that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it's not all on one page, but if you go through
It should be in the document.
You're wanting the
one
full
complete
set,
document, yes.
up to date. Yeah, for us to review.
Showing all of the components of our requirements.
Which everything we got at the November meeting was on there with the exception of the revisions from tonight.
Correct.
So you can you layer them or they still got to do that?
They need to with his engineer seal.
is that a plan submittal requirement in the ordinance? Understanding you want to see the well, does the ordinance plan sheet checklist require to show the well?
On a neighboring property, no. It requires them to do a groundwater.
And it maybe the well is not as big of a deal if you have the documents that they have shown
Right.
clearance from it. But the lighting is supposed to be on there.
Yeah.
Which we got
An easement on a survey is supposed to be on there.
So actually, under J on the site plan requirements, location of existing and proposed septic tank and drainage fields are public utilities on the site plan.
proposed, right? Proposed.
So he said existing.
Existing.
Oh, existing, or proposed. Oh.
Isn't that what you said? Existing or proposed?
If they're on the subject property.
If they're on that property.
Not on a neighboring.
Not a neighboring property, on the
Right,
subject.
of existing or proposed septic, and not on neighboring property,
Right.
But if,
because that's more of a health department issue.
well, then simply clearance from the health department that it's not a conflict. But I don't think it's unreasonable to say if you vote on a set of plans, that it not include the components that are required to be on the plans, i.e. the lighting and
So, Matt,
easements and such.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Health department's going to have to sign off before permits issued. Is
Well,
that
the
correct?
health department gets involved if there's the installation of a well or septic system, but this is a,
This is a no building, so.
yeah, there's no structures, there's no.
And there's no existing septic field or public utility,
Correct.
public water and sewer, and obviously nothing on site.
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, that house that's on the property looks like it has not been lived in for about 40 years.
Right.
But it would have had a septic or a well at that point.
Right, it would, but it's been discontinued.
I would assume so. We can look into that if it's been discontinued.
I mean, the well could have been properly decommissioned, got filled up, and the septic system, all it has to do is be disconnected, basically. It can remain underground on gravel systems.
Yeah. I want to mention too that for organizational purposes, you do need to address and approve your calendar for the remaining year. This is our organizational meeting, and the 2026 calendar is under new business.
Okay.
So if it's okay, I think we should at least consider that if you're going to dispense with all of the other business.
Let's just not have more meetings.
I might be okay with that too.
We can't vote on those.
Question on the text amendments.
Yeah.
On the new business text amendments, if we're going to continue this to the next meeting, does that consider them to be a first reading? So can we vote on those and recommend for approval at the next meeting on all these text amendments?
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked. That was going to be part of my lead in to that section of the agenda. So you're obviously the newest member. What we've been doing, we've undertaken a concerted effort since the January 2024 meeting, so 2 years now, to go through the ordinance section by section and leave it in draft status, but look at changes that will comply with state law and further define certain things and further put shape to ambiguous regulations, since, we never deal with those. And leave it in draft status and then make one motion at the very end to basically do one amendment throughout the entire ordinance and send it to the commissioners so they have one public hearing to consider all of those changes as opposed to what could be 20 plus public hearings.
Do they have to have two public hearings on the text amendment? Okay, so there's no requirement for that?
They don't, yeah. So
Do we have
it's all
to have
just-
two readings at the planning board for recommendations? Okay.
No.
Okay. So you simply put just the second consideration because it's come up in the past?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Basically, the way that we've treated it is you're looking at a draft document, but the final consideration and serious vote would take place once we've kind of consolidated everything and gone through everything.
But some jurisdictions, text amendments have to have two readings before they can be adopted. So, okay.
Our ordinance doesn't even spell out the process for amending it.
Wow.
We're trying to add stuff like that in.
Okay.
Yeah.
And clarification and a whole bunch of stuff.
Okay.
And we may be working on this for the next 40 years at the rate we're going.
Just like Moses.
No, we won't.
Like changing carpet in the church.
That's right.
Keyshawn, can you bring up the calendar on the screens, please? So are we okay to not dispense with this new business item?
Yeah, I'm okay to go with the calendar, yeah, sure.
Take a look at the calendar. So there's nothing controversial here. This is the second Thursday of each month. Agenda submittal deadlines, and then the mail out, the posting date is always the Friday before your meetings unless something is altered by a holiday. And then I'll take you into your organizational meeting for next January of 2027 as well. Any questions?
Does that need approval or we just good as it is?
You do need to vote on it.
I make a motion.
Second.
So we got a motion and a second to approve the calendar for the rest of this year and January next year. All in favor, aye? Opposed? Okay, good.
Announcements.
Yeah, the only last thing I want to say is one of our initiatives for this year is to update our website, update the permits. It's kind of like what we're doing with the UDO. We want to modernize and make sure we've got relevant information on the website as well. So we'd like to get a picture there with all of our current board members. If you're ready to do that.
Or if we're not.
Probably could. Well, what you could do is.
You didn't bring your smile with you.
Make a motion, make a motion to adjourn, and then sit there for a second while I take your picture. Don't talk.
Slide them in your seat.
That's till we get everybody here.
Well, and then those three just come stand behind us.
That's all good. One other quick announcement. My wife and I are expecting a baby in August.
Congratulations.
So
He's trying to get time off.
In August, he may not be here.
So that was one of the reasons I voted no on continuing the UDO amendments, because we kind of need to get done with that. Because I might be.
He'll be here.
Otherwise disposed in late summer.
When you're tied up, we know how to suspend the meetings.
We're good.
Beautiful.
Give him a color right now.
All right, everybody say cheese, say
or something.
Rodney's so handsome.
Say, get it?
Don't you look happy, Rodney?
Oh, you don't want to see me when I'm not happy.
Thank you.
We adjourned 30 minutes ago. We voted to adjourn.
Yeah, okay. Somebody need to make a motion to adjourn.
I thought we had that a while ago.
That was to take a recess.
One in the same.
Oh, okay. I'll make a motion we adjourn.
Okay, so second.
All in favor, aye? Okay.
I thought we.